You know, sometimes the most powerful moments in a person's life are the quiet ones. No flashing lights, no big announcements, just silence. Peace and a quiet kind of confidence that doesn't need approval. And lately, that's exactly the energy Johnny Depp has stepped into. A new era, a different phase of life. One where he isn't chasing cameras, headlines, or anyone's validation. Instead, he's simply living, creating, breathing, and just being himself. It's funny, isn't it? For years, the world saw Johnny everywhere. On red carpets, in interviews, in courtrooms, on magazine covers, in fan clips, in fan fantasies, in scandals, in memes, in viral moments, everywhere. Every second, every breath was watched and judged. And now, he's not trying to be seen. He's letting the world notice him on its own. And the craziest part? It's working even more powerfully than before. The less he says, the more the world listens. The less he posts, the more people search for him. The less he tries to be in the spotlight. The more that spotlight naturally finds him again. It's almost like a reverse celebrity effect. In a world where most stars are desperately posting, bragging, promoting, and screaming for attention, Johnny has chosen silence, and somehow, that silence has become louder than any global press tour ever could. You've probably felt it too. That curiosity, that little thought creeping in every now and then. What is Johnny doing these days? Why is he so quiet? Where is he? What's he planning? Because silence creates mystery. Mystery creates intrigue. And intrigue. Well, that's more powerful than publicity, but here's the thing. This isn't the silence of someone who's hiding. It's not the silence of defeat or fear. It's not someone trying to escape or disappear forever. It's the silence of someone who finally feels free. For decades, Johnny lived in a constant whirlwind. Cameras, scripts, deadlines, lawsuits, pressure, expectations, drama, heartbreak, betrayal, pain. Imagine waking up every day knowing the world is waiting to judge you, to pick apart your every word, to twist your silence into a headline. Imagine trying to breathe under that kind of weight. At some point, a person stops performing and starts living again. And that's where Johnny is right now. If you think back, this isn't the first time he disappeared like this. Before Pirates of the Caribbean, before Jack Sparrow changed cinema forever, he spent years quietly creating, thinking, exploring, avoiding the spotlight, doing projects that felt meaningful to him, not ones designed for fame. People thought he was fading then too. They whispered he was past his peak, that he was drifting, that he didn't have the spark anymore. And then, boom. One character, one performance, and suddenly he rewrote Hollywood history. And now, years later, that same energy is returning. Not the chaos, but the calm before something new, something different, something honest. A reset, not a retreat. It's like he's saying to the world, I'll show up when I'm ready, and not 1 second earlier. There's a quiet strength in that, a strength most people never find, because most of us feel pressure to prove ourselves constantly, to respond, to explain, to fight back, to defend, to speak up. But real confidence doesn't need noise, it doesn't need applause, it doesn't ask for permission. And right now, Johnny isn't living for the cameras, he's living for himself. Private dinners with close friends instead of red carpets. Studio time with musicians instead of late-night talk shows. Sketches, paintings, guitars, travel, slow mornings, real conversations, real life, and honestly, that's refreshing. It's human. It's rare. And here's something interesting. People close to him have said something very specific, something that explains everything. He made a vow. Never again chase Hollywood approval. If the world wants him, they can wait. If the industry wants him, they can come to him. If the cameras want him, they'll have to search for him. That's how you know someone has truly reclaimed their power, and you can feel it, can't you? This isn't a comeback in the traditional sense. It's not about revenge, or proving someone wrong, or winning an argument, or making a statement. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's not explosive. It's calm, confident, grown, grounded, real. It's not a comeback because he never really left. He just stopped performing for other people and started living for himself. And yet, even in this quiet chapter, people still talk about him. Fans still search for him. Blogs still speculate. Hollywood still keeps its eyes open because real presence doesn't disappear when the cameras turn off. When someone has touched millions of hearts, that doesn't fade. And fans feel this new energy. They aren't begging for daily updates or paparazzi photos or drama to feed headlines. They're cheering for his peace. They're rooting for his space. They're happy to wait. Because when someone you admire starts healing, you don't rush them, you support them. And what if this quiet chapter isn't the end of momentum at all? What if it's actually the beginning of something bigger, just not in the traditional Hollywood way? Maybe this chapter isn't about famous, maybe it's about dignity, maybe it's not about chasing opportunity but choosing the right one. Maybe it's not about loud success, but deep fulfillment. Maybe what's building right now isn't a comeback, it's evolution. Because think about legendary artists, thinkers, musicians are the ones who last decades, not just moments. They know when to speak and when to stay silent. They know when to move fast and when to slow down. They know noise. Isn't success impact is Johnny? Has always been instinctive. He has never lived by Hollywood's rules. He never wanted the polished, predictable movie star image. He played odd characters when Hollywood wanted handsome leading men. He chose art over box office formulas. He chose depth over comfort. He chose risk over reputation. And now he's choosing peace over performance. And honestly, there's something deeply beautiful about that. Because when you look at his career, really look at it, you start to see a pattern that very few actors ever follow. Most actors begin with dreams of fame, recognition, and the approval of millions. They chase big franchises, studio roles, glamorous premieres, shiny awards, and magazine covers. They try to fit into Hollywood's mold. They want to be loved loudly. Johnny always chose to be understood quietly. He never wanted to be the manufactured idol. He wanted to be an artist. He wanted to feel something, not perform something packaged and safe. He wanted roles that were messy, strange, unpredictable, flawed, human characters with cracks, characters with shadows, characters who lived in the corners of storytelling, not in the spotlight's center. Think about it. He could have stayed a teen heartthrob from his early TV days. He could have played smooth, charming heroes and romantic leads forever. He could be a safe actor, the kind the industry loves because he fits the formula, but Johnny didn't want to be a formula. He wanted to be a feeling, so he worked with Tim Burton. He played Edward Scissorhands, a character who barely speaks, but breaks hearts. He played Captain Jack Sparrow, a weird, drunken, unpredictable pirate who became one of the most iconic characters in film history. He played a frightened author in Secret Window, a troubled writer in The Ninth Gate, a misunderstood barber in Sweeney Todd, a mischievous chocolatier in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, a loyal gangster in Donnie Brasco, an offbeat novelist in Finding Neverland, and so many others. He never repeated himself. He never chose the expected path. Even when critics didn't understand him, he didn't change. Even when people laughed, he kept going. He trusted his instincts. Not the industry script, and that's rare, very rare, because instinct requires courage. Courage to be different, courage to be misunderstood, courage to walk away from comfort and walk toward risk, courage. To value art over applause, Hollywood rewards predictability. It rewards the familiar face, the safe career, the marketable image. But Johnny never played Hollywood's game. He never built a career. He built a legacy. And anyone who has ever tried to break away from what the world expects, whether in career, family, creativity, identity, or personal growth, understands how heavy that choice can be. The pressure to fit in is real. The fear of being judged is real. The temptation to play it safe is real. But then there are people like Johnny, people who don't bend, people who don't perform for acceptance, people who stay true to their flame, even if the world tries to blow it out. And now, after decades of chaos, noise, fame, pressure, criticism, love, hate, courtroom battles, emotional storms, and intense public scrutiny, He's chosen something even more radical: silence, peace. Quiet life, a slower rhythm, a private smile instead of a public spotlight, a guitar in a quiet room instead of a microphone on a stage, coffee with friends instead of cameras in his face, art for himself. Not approval. It's almost poetic, a man who built a career on unusual characters, now living an unusual life. A man who never chased the Hollywood dream, now living outside of Hollywood's hunger. A man who spent years being talked about, now choosing not to talk at all, because real power isn't always loud. Sometimes it's calm, sometimes it whispers, sometimes it rests, sometimes it simply exists without asking for permission or clapping hands. And that's why this moment feels sacred. He's not disappearing. He's becoming. He's not fading. He's refining. He's not stepping away. He's stepping inward. He's reclaiming his space, his spirit, his time, his breath. And maybe that's what true strength looks like. Not fighting the world, not proving something every day, not forcing momentum, but letting life unfold naturally, choosing peace over performance, choosing soul over spotlight, choosing authenticity over attention. And when someone who once shined so loudly suddenly chooses quiet, that quiet becomes a message, a lesson, a reminder that success isn't about being watched. It's about being whole. It's about peace, not applause, depth, not noise, meaning, not marketing. Johnny isn't hiding. He's healing. He's growing. He's creating in private again, not just on screen, but inside himself. And if you've ever walked away from noise to protect your heart, if you've ever pulled yourself out of chaos to rebuild quietly, if you've ever chosen peace when the world expected performance, then you understand him more than any headline ever will. This isn't a quiet career phase. It's a beautiful evolution. A man who once belonged to the world, finally belonging to himself. And honestly, there's something breathtaking about that. It reminds us of something we forget in our own lives. You don't always have to be loud to be powerful. You don't always have to prove yourself. You don't always have to post your life to show you're living it. Sometimes growth happens off-screen. Sometimes your biggest chapters are written in silence. Sometimes peace is louder than applause, and deep down, a lot of us relate to that. We've had moments where we needed to step back, reset, breathe, find ourselves again. Moments where noise felt exhausting. Moments where solitude felt like strength, not weakness. That's why this moment feels different for him. And for his fans, this isn't watching a celebrity recover. It's watching a person rebuild. It's watching someone who survived chaos choose peace. It's watching someone who was judged by millions choose authenticity over attention. There's dignity in that. And just like before, quiet doesn't mean gone. Silence doesn't mean still. Sometimes silence means preparing. Sometimes silence means refining. Sometimes silence means becoming someone even stronger than before. So where does this lead? Well, here's a little secret. Insiders say he's choosing projects, but only the meaningful ones, not the big flashy blockbusters designed for hype, but soulful roles, purpose-driven stories, artistic projects, a possible return to screen, but on his terms, his pace, his timing. There are whispers of music, collaborations, talk of intimate film roles, small private set visits, selective appearances that feel personal, not promotional, heart-first choices, not publicity-first decisions. And if he does return in a major project again, you already know it's going to hit different. Because this time he's coming from peace, not pressure, not to prove anything, not to fight anyone, not to answer critics, but simply to express, to create, to live through art. Again, that's not a comeback story, that's a rebirth. So now the question becomes, what do you feel about this new chapter? Do you like seeing him in silence, building quietly, choosing peace over applause? Or do you miss the loud Hollywood version of him? The interviews, the premieres, the buzz, the noise? I'd love to know what you think. Seriously. Share your thoughts in the comments. Every perspective matters. And if you've ever taken time away to rebuild your life quietly, let me know that too. You're not alone, and neither is he. And if you're curious about where this quiet chapter might lead, stick around, because there's something very interesting happening behind the scenes, something subtle but powerful. And when the time comes, we're going to see a version of Johnny that is wiser, calmer, sharper, and more present than ever. Until then, let's enjoy this peaceful phase together. Let's respect it. Let's learn from it. Not every story needs noise to be meaningful. Sometimes the strongest chapters are whispered, not shouted. If you enjoyed this deep dive into his journey, stay with us. There's another video coming, exploring how silence is becoming Johnny's most powerful defense, and why Hollywood secretly fears it. Like the video if you felt this. Subscribe if you want more stories of real resilience and quiet strength. And remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply live, not perform. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.